This is Talking My Walking. I am Rodrigo Ribeiro, just another voice in the wilderness. Today I want to talk about freedom, indifference, entitlement in class-caste-based societies under the capitalistic framework. We talk a lot about freedom, and for many people, especially, everywhere, not only in the West, but especially in the West, freedom cannot be dissociated from the ability to every individual to fulfill their desires, to fulfill the hedonistic desires that are created by the consumption society and that give us that makes us perceive reality as just this big supermarket, this big place where spectacle, where the consumption of infotainment and the consumption of products and goods and services that are permanently available to fulfill our hedonistic, not only to fulfill our hedonistic desires, but to create the hedonistic desires, to create through the addiction to convenience. Many of us probably do not really understand, not because we are stupid, but just because we don't give it the attention that it deserves, the role of convenience in our lives. Our addiction to convenience weakens our will. It doesn't matter how much we think about freedom. Freedom without the exercise of intentional free will, it's and critical thinking, to have sound and factual analysis about the reality where we live, where we have to survive, a reality that is a web of deceit, because it is a web of deceit, where the weapons of mass destruction and mass deception are always bombarding us. We are continuously under the influence of this manipulation. And the hedonistic cult, because it's a cult, makes us, and this is an hedonistic individualistic cult, the pursuit of self-interest plus the pursuit of self-satisfaction, of the right to the entitlement to fulfill our desires without regard to the consequences of it, for the most part. That's where it plays the entitlement, that we feel entitled to as long as we have the money or the status or the credit or whatever it is, we associate freedom with the feeling of entitled to the things that the services, the goods, the experiences, the events, and whatever that we think it is what we want to fulfill our desires, to fulfill our passions, to even to mitigate our frustrations. And that leads to the feeling of that we don't care. We cannot care about others. We cannot care. I mean, we can care about others at the same time try to satisfy our needs. We can, but that's the point. When the system itself is built on creating, developing traits, sociopathic, hedonistic traits, narcissistic traits, on those that do not have them, but they develop them. Because our ability to adapt and adopt, our ability to adapt to different environments, it's also the ability to adopt the habits, to follow the patterns that we need to survive and thrive and satisfy our needs and our desires and our passions and our pulsions also, because we need to take all these into account. And this is why freedom in this system, in a class-caste-based system, under the capitalist ideological, cultural and political system, because capitalism, that's what so many people do not agree with me, because people think about capitalism as an economic system. But capitalism is not exactly an economic system or a free market system. Capitalism is a political, ideological and cultural system. To use the economy and to control society in ways through legal and political authorization and moral moral validation and glorification, to legitimize the accumulation, the unlimited accumulation of wealth, the primacy of private property and private proprietary rights over anything else, over life. I mean, because the indifference comes that everything is subjected to the freedom of profiting, the freedom of accumulating, the freedom of depriving others, people and animals and everything else, of the means they need to live, by destroying the ecosystems, by practicing ecocide and genocide, and by seeing everything through the lenses of profit, through the lenses of ownership, through the lenses of objectification. Things become objects. They are nothing else but objects to fulfill our hedonistic and individualistic and egotistic whims. And then we have a bunch of theories, pseudoscientific theories, and academic studies and researches and this and that try to justify, intentionally or not, try to justify by painting, try to justify this system that has been designed and perfected by people, by exactly the people that lack the basic traits of what it means to be a human being, which is empathy and compassion and the need to trust each other and to cooperate and reciprocate with each other to survive. These were tools to survive, and still are tools to survive. They are still essential for our survival as a species. That's why we need to recover and make and build a culture of true liberation on the basis of this. That has nothing to do with supernatural or to entities or God, religious like or whatever like entities. I'm talking about us as human beings with feelings, with emotions, with a mind, with an embodied mind. That's what we need to understand about ourselves. We can have ideas about God and creator. That's fine. What we should not allow is those ideas to undermine or inferiorize. I mean, to make it inferior, to make life, organic life, embodied life, inferior thing, because that's what we know, that's what we experience, that's how we are human beings, and how's life and how it's life happening around us is in its physical material form, and we need to have responsibility over it. Otherwise we confuse everything. Otherwise we stop caring, in spite of we associate religion and spiritual experiences as the way to evolve as a human being, to become as if we can only be a moral being by being religious, which is not the case. I'm not attacking religion. I'm really trying to say that religion should really be an option that we can have, but never to minimize organic life, never to minimize the embodied mind. My mind is my experience. What I know about myself, what I understand about myself, it has been shaped by the experience, my life experience, through the process that I can use my conscious reasoning, my conscious ability to transform myself intentionally. That's what consciousness is. is the process by which we are able to think about ourselves, to think about what is the roots of what we think and feel, what are they associated with, what are the connections, where things come from, what influences us, what shapes us, what manipulates our will. And if we do not understand, if the so-called spiritual experience, through meditation, through contemplation, I love contemplation. That's what I like to do when I'm out in nature, or where I can see life happening, especially in natural settlements, natural settings. I try to be in the contemplative mode, not only just observing as an observer, but as an observer that feels as part of what you are, of what I am observing, and feeling awe and admiration for the creation. I don't care if the creation there is a creator or it is evolution. What I care is my respect, is my admiration, is my joy, the joy I feel by allowing myself to merge, to feel part of this. That's how we grow. That's how we not fight, but that's how we practice. That is a practice that makes us less indifferent. That makes us more empathic and compassionate, because we see what's happening. We understand the dramas that are going on, and we feel that we need to do what is in our ability, our means, to intervene positively, not to change anything, but just to alleviate suffering, for example, when animals are in stress, or animals, human beings, whatever. So this is a process that requires a conscious, transformative process, intentional. Otherwise, we become indifferent. We become focused on ourselves. But this is not freedom, because we are victims of a system that has more influence on us that has more influence on what we become than we understand and accept and realize. And that is exactly the point. That is pointless to talk about freedom when in fact what we are, what we become, is not really a free choice by any means, by any stretch of the imagination. It is just the result of our interaction with in the social environment, socio-cultural environment, this environment that is created, that is artificial, manufactured by us, but not by you or me, because what have we done what do we do, most of us, that think we are so free? Huh? We are raised up with norms and rules and this and that, and narratives telling us things about money, about life, about ownership, about this and about that. And we go to school. What does the school teaches us? What is the school for? The school is to prepare us for being citizens integrated in our societies, not to be critical thinkers, not to understand how we are being already manipulated, not only indoctrinated, but instrumentalized through the education, through the existing pedagogic um, um, principles. So we go to school and we learn things. Of course, we learn those things that are necessary. We learn how to write, we learn how mathematics, basic mathematics, and we learn about history. Okay, which history? We learn things that are important. We learn things that really tell us the rules by which nature is governed. You know, physics, biology, and this and that. This gives us tools, good tools. But that's not the point that we are. They tell us we learn, we acquire this knowledge not in order to make us critical thinkers, but in order to prepare us for a future career. Of course, each one of us have our own tendencies, our own preferences, or our passions, whether they are innate, they are, or they were somehow we have been influenced. We are always influenced by whatever. Doesn't matter, even if we recognize it or not. So we grow up until we are an adult just by preparing ourselves, being shaped. Okay, our minds are being shaped to become to become a successful professional, or a successful business person, or just the ordinary worker. If you don't have ambition, or you don't have what it takes to fight for a higher position in society. So, and then what are, besides the education, what else is shaping our behavior and our understanding of ourselves? Media, culture, tribalization, through through sports. All these things shape our habits, shape what we believe is right or wrong, shape because they give us patterns to follow. Of course, we choose and always with the influence of our family, of our friends, of whoever it is that we think we are choosing freely, but we have always influences. Why do we become more sympathizers of this or of that? Why do we become fanatics or obsessed with this or that? Of course, there is a part that is ours. It has to do with our personality. It has to do with our temperament. That's okay, our genetics or whatever. But besides that, there is a huge influence that, of course, is distilled in each one of us in different ways, because each one of us has an individual experience, as a mind, embodied mind, with the feelings, with the traumas, with everything. So when I think about freedom, we cannot understand freedom as in absolute terms. Freedom is relational. Yeah? As truth, it's relational. As justice or trust. So, and this system, the capitalist system, which, I mean, we need to understand that the capitalist system, um, the, it's the importance is exactly what it how it transforms us, how it really transforms us. It transforms us on how we think, how we feel, how we perceive ourselves, how we perceive what's the world and everything, and how we relate to each other. That's why we in capitalistic societies we tend to feel entitled, to have to because in this individualistic way of perceiving everything makes us delusional about ourselves. We tend to think about ourselves, or to overvalue. To I mean, some of us also do the opposite. I know it, but especially for those already with some narcissistic um, tendencies, traits, they overvalue. They perceive themselves. They feel entitled, um, out of a misperception of themselves, of ourselves. But we don't care to think about it. We don't care to analyze, to have, because we don't care about self-analysis, about being introspective, about understanding why are we the way we are. Is just natural, you know, and then we just become indifferent. This indifference is not natural. The indifference the indifference is the indifference and the inability to cooperate with each other, to organize and unite. This indifference, but also polarization and the social isolation, um, that we that we suffer from, is because we, under this system, trust is very weak. Everything is ruled by contracts, by private law, by these laws, by law that is for the most part designed to protect the interests and the property of the wealthy, is also plays also a huge role in devaluing, in destroying trust, because contracts, legal contracts, are substitutes, function as substitutes for trust, for cooperation. It's not because it's. I mean, I'm not saying that legal contracts and things they should be they should not exist. It's not the point. The point that we become the process by which we dehumanize ourselves, and at the same time we perceive it as a natural process, as part of us, of our, as being, as part of our the very nature of ourselves. As if we could not avoid it, because this is the natural progression. In a complex society, it has to evolve like this, more dehumanized, in the sense that we become more, that we have to trust more. You have to trust law. I mean, let me rephrase it: law, technofixism, technoscientism. You know, the cult of technofixism and technoscientism, and law substitute trust and substitute human, the human factor. Trust, truth, justice are replaced by technofixism and technoscientism. And law is what gives it legitimacy, political legitimacy. And then we create this cultural environment that justifies and normalizes and naturalizes an insane and a humanized, dysfunctional societal system that, of course, just makes things worse. It doesn't. The process by which we should have a civilization that should humanize us, because the human civilization should be, or the purpose of civilization should be, that through the scientific research and art and philosophy and this and that, all these disciplines that allow us to produce knowledge and to use the scientific method to make it more accurate, to make it to base our knowledge in facts, in understanding the laws of nature. In fact, this knowledge, instead of being used to humanize, to create a humanized civilization, it has been doing the opposite. And it does the reason why it does the opposite, in spite of all the sophistication and all the things and what we see in the world, it does it because it really makes us feel entitled, and having and which when we replace empathy, I mean empathy and compassion and trust and cooperation, is replaced by self-aggrandizement and the individualistic exacerbation, the exacerbated individualism. And we go and this is the process by which we just I think we will destroy ourselves. we will destroy ourselves, because we should go through a process of conscious transformation that I don't see how it is going to happen, because the main everything is controlled by the people that don't want it. Okay, the knowledge factory, the academia, the media, the public relations industry. I mean, everything is organized to not to allow us not to make not to incentivize critical thinking and critical analysis, and we do not we are supposed to operate under this the capitalistic framework, and to understand it as the estina, there is no alternative, and to govern our lives and within these patterns. This is the framework, and that's it. And I don't see anywhere, even in China, which could be a beacon of hope. And unfortunately, the paradigm. I'm not talking about the communist vision of society. I'm talking about exactly the individualistic, the pursuit of self-interest, the hedonistic consumer society, and the process by which people become focused on themselves, in spite of people recognizing that people understand that society, we need to share, the wealth needs to be distributed, and this and that. But the culture, this consumerist, mindless consumer culture, and the way we are educated to compete with each other and to achieve, it makes us, it humanizes us. It truly dehumanizes us. But by dehumanization, I mean that our traits, the traits that makes us humans, are the ones that seem not to be important. They do not seem to be important. They are obfuscated. And that's and we don't become indifferent to many things as part of a natural evolution. It is a process by the adaptation. It is the result of the adaptation of an existing system. And by that system, I want to emphasize the class-caste-based societal system. Because if we do not understand it through the lenses of caste and class, and don't buy into the narrative that tells you that we have the ones up there and the other ones up there. The ones in the middle, that's exactly the ones that count to sustain this system. Okay? Because if it was just the ones up there and the ones down there, the ones up there could not really make it work. Okay? Don't buy into those narratives that tell you, oh, there is these guys and there is the rest of us. No, we can use that sometimes. I use that, but I'm aware that's not the reality. The classes in between, the classes and subclasses, or castes or subcastes in between, are the ones that sustain the pyramid, are the structure that sustain the pyramid, that allow the top to be sustained and keep the bottom, which are most of us, which I'm part of that bottom, deceived and distracted and humanized and tribalized and whatever it is, and polarized and atomized and whatever, in order to that we do not really come to grips with reality, that we do not, we go throughout our lives without understanding the very system that has been exploiting, instrumentalizing, and demonizing us, calling us losers, useless eaters, useful idiots, using us as cannon fodder and as expendable peons, and we keep fighting each other for a job or for something, without understanding that they manufacture scarcity, because the commons have been encircled, and because Mr. John Locke convinced that private property is a human right. I mean, is sacred. And here we are thinking that just because we own, sometimes we don't own anything of value in terms of real assets, but we think again. We think about ourselves. We have this idea that we compare. I mean, we, instead of valuing our class, we are excited and compare ourselves and associate ourselves and use role models as of celebrities and actors, actors and sports stars, and all this rubbish. It's rubbish. These people are just guys like us. They might have these particular skills, like artists, or whoever it is. We might not have. Many of us do have. We never have the opportunity in our lives. Many of us across the world, in Africa, in Asia, in Europe, everywhere, there are many people with wonderful skills, innate skills and talents, and they will never have the opportunity to develop them. So for each person that has, even today, I'm not talking even about the past, even today, for many people, that for one that really has the opportunity to develop the skills or the talents, the innate skills and talents they have, maybe 10, 100, 1,000, who knows how many that could do the same thing or discover the same stuff or understand at the deepest level the problems, the intricacies of the laws of nature. And they don't. But they don't like our anonymity. We have these celebrities and so many people. And that's why I always talk about authorities and leaders and saviors and heroes and this and that. Please, some of them deserve our admiration, and they do deserve our respect. But that's it. Don't idolize them. Don't glorify them. We are the ones that need to organize, that need to understand class and the role they play, the role they play, you know, in order to keep us divided, tribalized, distracted, deceived. Because the war, the main war of a class caste system, class societal based system, is mind war, is the war against our minds, our embodied minds. And we need to understand it in a holistic way, as we need to have an idea about what kind of society, what kind of civilization we need, because we need to understand the whys and the hows, and we also need to have a project, and we need to discuss it, and to get together physically, not only, and we need to be internationalists. That's another important point that we have need to, and we, for the most part, we waste our lives. If we spend the time doing, not really building a more comprehensive understanding of the reality and of ourselves and how we come to be who we are, what have been influencing us, not the influences that we choose, okay, but the ones that at the subliminal level, at the subconscious level, that because we are always, by being exposed, that's something that many of us do not understand. We, just by the fact that we are exposed, that we have to, that our body, our senses, and our brain and our cognitive affective systems have to process the data, the signals that are coming from our environment, and that is used to build, to recognize patterns, and to build how we understand ourselves and reality. That's nothing to do with conscious processes. That's why we need to train our conscious mind to work on this, to understand the narratives, how the dominant narratives that exist in our subconscious mind rule ourselves, how they become dominant, and how can we, through a conscious transformative process, not erase them. That's not the point. The point is making them not dominant, making us really be the ones to choose what are the narratives that really make sense. And those narratives have to be associated of what kind of society and civilization would you like to have. And the relevance of another point, which is cultural liberation. What is cultural liberation? A culture that allows us to build resilience, to build immunity against being deceived and manipulated and distracted in order to be used by others. We don't want a society where we are using each other. We want a society where we cooperate for the common well-being, for the collective well-being, without the need to think that we are better or superior or entitled. Because all of us have flaws. We are all equals in our differences. And if we have one talent, I absolutely think I know that you can. If you have a specific talent, I assure you that you can find the opposite of that, which means a flaw or some personality disorder or whatever. That's always this. So that's why we need each other to compensate. We complement each other. We make things. We are not better or superior or and people and the true wise people understand it. They understand the role of intellectual humility, humbleness. We do. And the older you get, if you evolve in the right, I use the word evolution in just, I don't, it's not a question of evolution. It's more a question of awareness. That awareness that is part of the process of conscious transformation makes you humble, but not humble just in relation to your fellow human beings, but in relation to everything that exists. And to me, this is the only way to live as a human being, to be a human being, to be a true human being, a human being that understands what it means, what life should be about. Why should we glorify the creation of empires when we know that they can only be created through genocide, ecocide, plunder, murder, and everything that is against the humanization? And why do we buy into ideas about the supremacy, for example, of the white race or the white culture or the European or Western culture and civilization and this and that? And why do we see imperialism as a civilizational process by which we bring light to the world? Yes, that's what we have been doing. Erasing species, erasing peoples, erasing cultures. Annihilating them is not a sign of civilization. But we can build that civilization. We do, because we are not the way we are pictured as the condition of the nature and the condition of the species is pictured is incorrect. We are not those demons. We can be demons for sure, but we can also build a culture that doesn't allow the demons to dominate the society, to be the ones that dictate the rules and the laws, by controlling the systems, by controlling by controlling the economy, by controlling, because when you are allowed to encircle the commons and create manufactured scarcity, therefore you can control the people. You can transform them into subjects and serfs and slaves. And by controlling their minds and accusing them of laziness or whatever it is, we can't even blame them. They are the victims of a system, but you can blame them because they are the only ones responsible for their bad choices, for their poor choices. Yeah. So, I mean, the only way out of this is through this conscious transformative process that we need to go through alone as individuals, but we can also help each other by processing it as groups, through organizations and movements that we need, and to understand that we need an internationalistic view of the world, because we cannot only change in a single country. It's impossible. In the today's existing world, it's impossible to have a meaningful change that is not kind of globalized. It has to be, if not all countries, enough countries that will impose the change, because it's going to be needed to be imposed, because the wealthy class, the psychopaths, and the sociopaths, and the narcissistic and megalomaniac class, plutocratic, the Pluto oligarchy that controls us at the national level and at the transnational level will not give up without a fight. That is obvious. And this means revolution. Do not think that you can reform this system. It's irreformable. And we are the ones that need to do it. Please, do not stop the minds. I mean, the mindset that we are always expecting for a savior, a leader, a hero, a guru, an authority, a luminary to save us. That's not going to happen. I mean, we can have, and we do have, leaders and people that can do that there are examples, but the problem is they die, and the ones that come after them, it's not sustainable. It has to be a system that is controlled by us, where we do have agency, political and economic agency. It is required participatory economics and participatory politics. And we need that culture of liberation. That's not a culture to say, okay, this is there. No, we need that education. We need an indoctrination and an instrumentalization for a culture of liberation, because we cannot we will always be indoctrinated and instrumentalized. It just depends for what is the purpose. Cui bono. All right, I will end it here. Thanks for listening. I will be back soon.